Hello, everyone. You are at the Saturday Night Talk. Deb and I are using our avatar, what we call them, Deb?
Avatar.
using,
Avatars.
yes, using our avatars for tonight as we both have been out in the wilderness. And let me
Mm-mm.
tell you, we are here to talk about some things, people. This might be our best live yet, Deb.
I agree. It's been a week.
A week indeed. Well, let's talk about our topic. Our topic today, everybody, is my stress versus your stress. I know we're not the only ones with stress, baby.
Mm-mm-mm.
What the
My,
heck?
my, my.
My. Ha, ha, ha. I'll tell
Oh my.
you this.
Go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say, I'll tell you this. If they don't catch on tonight, I don't know what, but at least we're here. At least we're here. So go ahead, Deb. Let's talk about how people don't realize depression, stress, it all goes hand in hand. Uh, Eating healthy, all of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, people, if you want to come on, go to the Simply Jewel TV on YouTube and you can get the link and let's chop it up. Let's talk about it. Well, Deb,
Wow. I'll tell you, the past 7 days have been an incredible journey full of stress. Our topic in last week, Tennessee was hit with high winds and tornadoes. And the county that I reside in was hit with two tornadoes. And the neighboring, our next door county, was hit. There were lives lost, a lot of property damage in both counties. Um, but because we do prevention and coalition, and I've shared on here about us feeding, we had a company out of Nashville, Tennessee, get in touch with us and say, because you're doing mobile food anyway, we'd like to send you some disaster relief food. And we were like, all right, it's not an agency that we are currently working with. So it has been an event. You know, we have made 3 trips in the past 3 or 4 days to 2 different counties 3 times. So I've spent a lot of time on the road meeting people that lost homes, lost loved ones, lost cars. I've seen devastation that is just, a back of a post office was totally gone, a whole side of a church, the roof collapsed, and, you know, the windows are gone, pews are still sitting there, and pulpit furniture, and you're just like, we have so much. Even though it was stressful, Jewel,
hmm
I was thankful that in the midst of these high winds and tornadoes, all it did was break the post that my mailbox was on. And I'm like, to hear people, it keeps you humble because, when you're serving and giving to others, all they can say, they thank you, because so many people don't go listen to stories, and they've taken pictures of their damage and they just want to talk and converse about their experience. And we're like, wow, some people are just going about their day like nothing happened. But, I'm meeting some people that had no property, no insurance on their property, don't know what they're going to do. I've had the privilege to work with Red Cross this week and our local EMA department, and I am just like, you have to be in position. And I'm glad today is Saturday because, Jewel, I'm being honest, it's been a very stressful 7 days, but we made
Oh
it.
yeah. Yeah, we made it, and I sure get that. I get that because even though we're both in the community helping people, the stressors are different. But like you
Hmm.
say, people, we're trying to overcome so much. We're trying to overcome the fact that we have made it through these unprecedented times. People are
Hmm.
trying to get their bearings. People are trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. People are trying to get jobs. Some people haven't been able to pay their bills, and then a tornado
Hmm.
comes and no renter's insurance, no
Hmm.
homeowners insurance. It's too much for people to bear. You've got people that are overwhelmed, people that are pretending to be okay and they're not okay. You say something to people, they get frustrated, they cuss you out, and all we're
Hmm.
trying, at what point do we realize, okay, people, we got to come together. We got to do what we can do to help one another because some people are out here acting like they don't see anything happening. They act like they don't see a demise. All they see is their situation, their pocket, their
Hmm.
livelihood. But it's more to it than what meets the eye. You've got all these catastrophes, it's a
Hmm.
lot. It's just a lot.
It is. And the thing that is disturbing me is some of these communities are waiting for Red Cross to come in. And Red Cross is an agency like every place else. And they only have limited funding, limited volunteers. Typically, when things happen like this in communities, they told me they're allowed to stay there for 3 to 7 days to offer emergency resources. Excuse me. But what they're expecting is local communities to step in and stand up and unite forces to help their community. And I've experienced a lot of disconnect because there's a young lady that we had been helping several months prior to this with food and diapers in our facility and, through the blessing box. And she called me Saturday asking me, what do I do? She has a learning disability. And she said, Miss Deborah, I couldn't get insurance on my trailer. And it had
Mhm.
torn off the roof off the bedroom, one of the bedrooms, and her bathroom. And she says, I have 3 children, three, two, and one. And when she came to get food, stuff that she was able to put in her little Jeep, she had clothing and food in there. So I'm like, okay, how are we going to help people? I'm seeing we have a percentage of people that need some life skills to to know how to manage and balance stuff. And she started cussing, but not necessarily at me. She said, it just doesn't seem like people like me matter in the society. And I said, wait a
Mhm.
minute, I'm here, I'm trying to help you. Slow down and tell me specifically what you need, and we'll try to
Right.
make sure that we have those things for you. But, when people are in that moment and they've lost their stuff and they don't have the money to purchase those belongings again, they become frustrated and stressed and angry and bitter at a system that
Hmm.
kind of seems a little one sided at that moment. And
Yeah,
FEMA is a great program, but FEMA is not right now money.
right. And it's so much from all the other catastrophes is
Hmm.
taking so long. But that is the problem that people are having. They're like, well, here we are with another catastrophe. Why is it taking so long to get the help? But we don't have the manpower as a
Mm-mm.
society to
No,
accommodate all these people.
we
So
don't.
yeah, this is why we as a community, as a society, have to come together, help one another,
Hmm.
because you're not, if you're depending on help from all these different services, it'll be a while.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, she definitely has a need. She needed housing. An agency in our community housed her for 2 days and told her, "Hey, that's all we can help you. You know, go back to Red Cross." But you have to realize when someone has a learning disability, they don't process things like we do. And you have to break it down sometimes into smaller pieces for them to comprehend and understand. When I asked her last Saturday when she called me, I said, "Has Red Cross been to your home yet?" She asked me, "What's Red Cross?"
Oh, wow, really?
Yes. And
So
I'm,
she didn't even know what Red Cross was, or I mean, see, that's okay, that's a problem because
yes.
how is it that you have these foundations and people don't know who they are, they don't have the resources, they don't know where to go. So what are people doing? A lot of these foundations and corporations, it looks good on paper, but they're not paving the
Nope.
streets. They're not out here bringing awareness to these communities or
Mm.
areas that are underprivileged, you
And
know.
absolutely, because I just, before I said anything, I just kind of held the phone and paused because I'm like, "You've got to be kidding." And then I spoke and I said, "You don't know about Red Cross?" And she's like, "No, ma'am." And so I explained some of the benefits, what Red Cross could do for her, but because they didn't want to, they brought her that day some water. Okay. They brought her a case of water, checked on her. She needed tarp, okay, to cover up those two rooms. Red Cross at that time when they arrived, they didn't even have materials. All they did is had a few volunteers that were going door to door in these communities doing their initial assessment. Then once they assessed the damage, you know, look at the survivors, the structural damage, then they had to request supplies to be brought in. Well, where that particular Red Cross is, that's almost an hour and a half from where this tornado happened. So that's a whole process. It wasn't like ready system stuff. And because most of the people that were impacted by the tornado had other family members um, in the area, it wasn't enough for them to open up a shelter. So those that didn't have, I guess they have a certain number of individuals that need housing before they will start a shelter. It's what I understand from talking to them, but that's unfair for those that don't have family there because they have no place to go. I honestly believe when she came and got food from me yesterday, that she and her children have been sleeping in her car because she realizes, it's raining here and has rained yesterday and today. She knew she couldn't be in a home with children and rain's just coming through her roof. And in 7
Wow.
days, her home hadn't been tarped. And, to find churches, there's such a stigma in our society that of the haves and the have nots. I hate to say it like that,
Yes.
but
Well, it's
be,
true. Let's just put it out there. It is true because the ones that aren't suffering, they have too much. And the ones that are suffering, they may not have enough, or they may have something, but they still can't make things happen because people want to ostracize them because they're not
mhm,
on the same level that the ones that
mhm.
have more than they need. Let's just put it out there. It is what it is.
Yeah, and because she is part of the have not, um, and they know that she uh, has a learning disability, I believe that she was just maybe pushed to the side and like, okay, this isn't high precedent. Let me describe the trailer in that she lived in. Jewel, it was probably from the 1950s or 60s. So I'm
Okay.
sure it's got to be totally destroyed. Um, I'm sure whoever owns it, if she doesn't own it, um, I'm just hoping that she gets some compensation so that she and her children will have a safe place to live. Um,
Yeah.
because it's not a safe environment. Now that we've had so much rain here this week, you have to worry about mold,
Right. Right. Right.
and things like that. But I have done so much. I've done what can to help her, and I gave her enough food to last her at least, I believe, a week. So, and I told her, when you go through this, just contact me, and we'll give you some more. Um, but it's in this area, it's hard to find housing, and with her being um, receiving some form of disability check, she probably doesn't have the money to pay a deposit, first month rent, and all that utility stuff that goes with it. It breaks my heart.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because if she was getting assistance, I am so surprised that they didn't have Salvation Army as a resource on their sheets. Like, do they give sheets for those who need resources, in addition to the service that they give? Like, how is it that we're so disconnected? And how is I mean, I'm going to have questions, but we can pick a little at a time. But these are the things I think about. It's like, how come we can see what needs to be done, and the people that are in these foundations and organizations, they can't use their common sense or practice autonomy as if it were their loved one?
Well, when I went to meet with Red Cross the first part of the week, um, I gave them a business card, and they were writing our information in a spiral notebook. So when people came to their command center, if they needed food or clothing, they could give them our information to get in touch with. I never saw a sheet. 2 or 3 days later, I went to that same command post, and they had, you know, um, rakes and shovels and water and trash bags and like Rubbermaid totes with cleaning supplies and things like that in them. Those things did arrive, but when they initially come, from what their director told me, they spend a large portion of their time going door to door in neighborhoods, seeing if anyone is there and what assistance they can give. So when they come to an area, they do not bring supplies with them. It's once they complete their assessment and determine what the real need is, that's when they come in with their semi trucks or their box trucks with equipment and supplies.
Wow, that's amazing to me because I don't know how and who created a format for people, but that's just not realistic anymore. I don't
I
think.
I agree. I see a lot of flaws to it because when you're dealing with individuals that have gone through that kind of trauma, that is traumatic. I mean, driving down there has been very difficult. We've made 6 trips, 3 trips to one city and 3 trips to another city on 3 different days. And going down and just seeing trees split, just like split, split,
Uh,
split, 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 split. Trees, mature trees, I'm sure a good 100, 200 years, just uprooted out of the ground with the roots out of them. And you see
yeah,
just stuff leveled, and I am like, why don't we have better systems in place in communities for this? And I
right.
honestly feel like um, people are so hands off, and that's been a difficult part for me this week, Jewel, is that the attitude is, oh, well, they didn't affect me and I'm safe and I still have my house and my car. I'm just like, where's the compassion for other people? And I
Mhm.
actually had a conversation with a person this week that really disturbed me. And I was sharing, and they're on our Facebook page, and they saw what we were doing. And they said, well, we had one family in our church that was impacted. And I just feel like when someone's in that situation, their church family is supposed to help them. And I
Wow.
said to this individual, what about the people that don't have a church family?
Hmm.
And the look that the individual gave me was like, oh, well, my church did what they were supposed to do. And I am like, that disturbed me because of all things. We are, some call it Holy Week, Easter week,
Yes.
Resurrection week, Easter weekend, Good Friday, whatever people want to call it in their belief system.
Right.
Of all weeks for people to have that kind of attitude, that disturbed me.
Well, and rightfully so, because here we are. I said something earlier today to a person. Everybody is trying to make healthy choices, and you ask them what are they consuming. Some may be on you know teas or essential
Mhm.
oils, but then I'm like, well, do you know what you're taking it for? Okay, if you know what you're taking it for, but yet we're quick to recite the word, we're quick
Mhm.
to uh, talk about the Bible, but why is it that we're not quick to talk about our temple?
Mhm.
What you're putting in your temple, because your temple is like many of us say, you can't do what you're supposed to do if you don't understand the stuff you're putting in your system. But yet we want to say, recite so much of the Bible, but we're not even living. You can't, why even say, oh, well, our church did this, our church did that? When do we all become, as we serve one God, why can't we all become one church? when things like this happen.
And something that I agree, because it's been a struggle. I'm not saying that churches are not doing anything, because there have been churches that have. But I really think that we as individuals are the church. I think this was a good week to show the love and compassion to those who are struggling, keeping it together. There were children whose lives were spared in this situation. There were families that had to take
Mhm.
shelter under staircases
Mhm.
because they heard the howl. And I am like, every church in that community and in our county should have been open.
I agree. And
That's my opinion.
I agree. And I say it's the mindset we have to tweak, because when there's a catastrophe and all the churches aren't open or all the resource places aren't open, what are we doing? What are we doing as a community? How is it that we cannot get people to do their due diligence, do their part? Who are the people in position that can call and say, we're in a catastrophe? Everybody report to duty. Everybody report to the
Hmm.
church. Everybody report to these foundations, organizations to help our community heal. Why is it that we are so uh, out of we're not connecting? I don't
No,
understand how we become so disconnected that even a catastrophe, a tornado, a hurricane, earthquakes, that we don't know how to come together as a community, as a society. It's that bad.
it, it, and I agree with you 100%. You know, I was taught charity begins at home and spreads abroad. A lot of these churches support foreign missions, and that's okay. I think we should, if we can afford to do so. But I think we also need to have funds available for local missions, for local catastrophes, because this is not the first tornado that has come through this same area. I think it was 2008 or 2009 they had one that went through some of this same stretch of land. So I would have, not that lessons are learned, but you've had this experience. What did we build on from that point? And I wasn't a resident here, but I have certainly been taking lots of notes. I've had a lot of aha moments. I've had a lot of incredible conversations and seen a lot of pictures that disturbs me. Now, I'm going to go to church tomorrow because it's Easter, but I'm going to tell you, I'm probably struggling with that because the church had an incredible opportunity, in my opinion, to meet people. We always use that term. Let's meet them where they were. Well,
Mhm.
why don't you? They are still in some of these cities in this county. They're still finding people that didn't survive the storm 7 days
Mhm.
later.
Yeah, see, 7 days later, people they're not working fast enough. It seems like people just don't care. People doing what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it. And we have people that are lost. We have people that are, like you say, missing. It didn't affect us, but I know that there are areas, there have been catastrophes in our area, but now you don't hear the news report on the upkeep, the updates. What are people doing now? The last I heard of a catastrophe in our area, people were still getting
Go ahead.
people were still complaining that they haven't been serviced. So here
Mhm.
we are, months and even a year later, and people aren't they're not getting service, which it is sad, because you still
Yes.
are trying to solve problems from a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
I had seniors calling, Jewel, that because of this, trees were down, power was out, and some of them lost food in refrigerators and freezers. And it was probably Tuesday. Some of them may didn't get power back on till Wednesday. So they had to endure. They don't usually have extra resources to go stay in a hotel for 3 or 4 days. I
Right,
mean,
right.
the whole system was like, what can we do? What could we have done better? Um, to have been in position to assist quicker. You know, that's the thing that I've been listening to, and some of these people, they don't have any family that lives in this area, and there was such devastation that, my goodness, some areas it looks like almost like a war zone. There's so much debris that it's going to take a while before people can sort through stuff. Somebody told me yesterday one of their cars was found 2 miles down the road.
Mm, 2 miles. So that tornado was brutal.
It
Yeah.
was it was what very widespread. There were two
Mhm.
of them that hit two separate ones that hit the county, and one was from one end across the other side of the river, from what I was shown from pictures from EMA, and the wind gust got up to 70 miles an hour during part of that storm, some of the high winds and stuff. Excuse me.
Yeah,
So it
I
was
did.
it was something.
Yeah, because I did. I've called a few people that lived in the area. Nobody I knew as of now was affected.
Mm,
Um, but they know of people who were, because I started calling when I saw how the roofs had been blown off.
mhm,
Hi, I want to say hi to Marva. Marva is saying hi, ladies. Marva, if you'd like to come on, if you'd like to talk about stressors, that's what we're doing today. We are using our avatars. So, because I do know you, you're welcome to come on with your avatar if you so choose. Okay. But yeah, Deb, this is kind of crazy. It's so disconnected, disproportion, where
mhm,
I feel like people have lost their way. They have
mhm,
lost their compassion. They have
mhm,
lost the empathy. And it didn't, of course, it didn't used to be like that, but
mhm,
I'm trying to figure out, why are some people falling into the fact that, or just feel like they don't have to show compassion or show empathy, or even lift a hand, lift a finger. I'm confused. Where that's what confuses me.
That's been the stressor for me all week. I'm going to be honest, because one high wind, one storm could wipe out everything an individual owns. And
Yes.
I I just trade places. Most people don't have a lot of overflow cash savings in their account to be able to stay in a hotel long term. Some of these individuals, it's FEMA money, your insurance adjusters, be it, you know, your car or your homeowner, you're not necessarily going to receive right now money and payout settlement type things. So
Right. And
what
maybe
about
that's
your
what
nest egg? What if you don't have a nest egg?
Well, that's true because I've been around people and I've been there before where you have no savings. You've used all your savings, but then you get to a point where you've got to save, even if it's $25 each pay period until you build up again. But then some people don't have support. Some people don't have anybody but themselves, and they may have kids, but I also have spoken to people who, you know, they're not even living paycheck to paycheck because they
Uh-huh,
don't have the resources and they don't know
uh-huh,
which way to go.
uh-huh,
So, there, and one thing I noticed, these food banks are different. Some of these food banks, they really uh, have better food, and some of them, like if they're in a neighborhood, uh, their food choices are very minimal. I think we spoke about that before, where
uh-huh,
one food bank they have healthy choices, one food bank they have even their fruits and vegetables are not even fresh. You can tell that they have been out, for about 3 or 4 days, little refrigeration, not kept on ice, but yet
uh-huh.
they're still giving this away to families. And if you're hungry, what you think? People are
Well,
gonna try and make a meal out of what they have.
absolutely. Now, I will say the um, organization that supplied us with disaster relief food, in this, it was emergency. And we did not receive anything fresh.
Hmm.
Everything, we received 4 varieties of cereal, those cereal bowls they give kids at school.
Yeah.
That's what
Hmm.
they're for breakfast.
Hmm.
We were given cartons of 1% milk. We had cheese crackers and peanut butter crackers,
Hmm.
Nutri-Grain bars, different types of juices, vegetable juice, fruit punch, a grape, and an
Hmm.
apple juice. And then we were given Pop Top meals and
See,
a
that's
lot of,
what I'm talking
yeah,
about. Yeah. But, and then now, because people are homeless, they can't do beans and rice because they have nowhere to cook the food. So, yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, we were. Now, this is what I was told in both communities. Some of the families purchased tents and are sleeping in tents, and they're making like campfires. So those Pop Top meals are easy because all they do is pull the label off and they can heat the food over the fire to warm them up. And
Yeah, that's a
like
good
there
thing.
was like we had a lasagna, we had a
Hmm.
vegetable lasagna, we had a chili, um, a chicken and noodle. We had 5 different varieties of them. Um,
Okay.
but they, I guess it beat nothing and that was considered part of the disaster relief part. Now we are to get additional food next week that are going to be um, all pallets. Like I know that they're trying to get a lot of protein out, so I know that they are sending a pallet of peanut butter. Um,
Okay.
she,
Good.
yeah. So I think it was very widespread because one of the things that Red Cross shared with me was, of course, everybody has a crisis for volunteers, but this hit multiple states, and every state is robbing Peter to supply people to other places that were hit. It was Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas were heavily hit in certain areas. So they're trying to move people in other parts of those states to bring them in to help work communities. Um, and I just guess we've gotten away from a society that will volunteer. But I'm going to tell you, we need to raise up a culture of awareness, um, that even if you only have 2 or 3 hours a week, find somewhere to go volunteer. I mean, connect with Red Cross, get a ministry team um, prepared so that if something happens in your community, that you all are prepared. You don't have to sit there and try to get volunteers. Make sure that your volunteers are trained and
Yeah.
ready to go.
Yeah, well, that's the problem because everybody's got to, nobody wants to be second. Everybody wants to be first. Nobody wants to be trained. Everybody's busy. People don't have time for that. You hear it all over the place, and
Mhm.
nobody has a strategy of what do you do if you have to survive, the survival skills, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts. No,
Mhm.
lucky for us, we grew up in a time where we were Girl Scouts
Mhm.
and our parents were, the Girl Scout leaders and
Mhm.
but these people today, girl, please, I don't think they even can figure out how to start a fire. Do they know how to fish? Do they know how to eat in the wilderness? What do they know how to do to save themselves? Because like you say, volunteering for these foundations, it's almost a lost art, if you will.
It. I hate to agree with you, but yes, it really it's disappointing because everybody wants to be paid, and I understand that people want to be paid because we all have bills and we have to live. But I'll tell you, after seeing what I have seen and been involved with, which has been a stressor, I will say this: I'm thankful that I was trained to serve and to give of my time, because I would hope that if I was ever in that situation, that someone would want to show some acts of kindness and make sure that I was had the things that I needed. I'm I mean that's truly
Yeah.
when you people are losing their lives and their furniture and everything that they worked for, you don't
Mhm.
even have a toothbrush anymore. Your hairbrush is
Yeah.
gone. You have no makeup, no deodorant, no razor, no shaving cream. You absolutely have nothing. It's
Yeah.
it's rewarding to go and just have total strangers tell you thank you. I appreciate you looking out for us and being concerned.
Exactly. That's the thing. Having a heart, a pure heart, feeling their pain. You know, these kids this day and age, they don't even, not many, I'm not saying all, but some, they they can't feel if a person is hurting. They really know what it's like? Well, here's Marva again. She says many don't even know how to cook anymore. If fast food isn't available, they'll starve. You know, that's a sad situation
That is
because,
true.
you know, even before COVID, I cooked, but with COVID, I cook every day, and it's been what, almost 3 years.
Right.
I think I've probably eaten out or ordered food maybe
Hmm.
twice in 3 years, no more than five, because
Wow.
we were talking about that. I think we were talking about that earlier, saying, what do you cook, and cook enough for 2 and 3 days. When you eat out, you eat out and later on you get hungry again. And then the food bill, I know if my food bill is high, I can only imagine what some of these food bills look like eating out every day. And
Oh,
that's
yes.
crazy. That's
Absolutely.
crazy. But yeah, so to be
Absolutely.
able to, so my heart goes out to the people who have lost the roof. My heart goes out to people who are trying to find their way. Um, my heart just goes out to people, period, because I wish I was in a community where people really want to help others, that because that's on their priority list, because we're fortunate and blessed enough. um, it's That's what we used to do when we first moved here. It was like feeding the working poor and the homeless, and then you didn't serve yourself until after we served somebody else. Now I
Absolutely.
don't even know what happened. It's like it's sad.
It it is. Today, you know, has been the first day that I was able to shed tears and let emotion, because I made it through the week. We made it as a team. And I said, you all, every day I left this office, I took stories and pictures home with me, even though I tried to dismiss it. People were calling and texting and asking for food and wanting to make sure we were going to be open the next day so they could get things that they needed. And I said, it's very difficult to have an organization that's a nonprofit to me and not serve its community. I always, even though we address prevention of substances and mental health, we should always feel that we can serve under any circumstance. And, I said, we have not even seen what's getting ready to come from this, because here comes the PTSD to follow and all the mental health trauma, because some of this is going to take people 6 months to a year
To
to put their
overcome.
pieces back together.
Right, right. That's why we have an abundance of post traumatic stress disorder.
Hmm. Absolutely. It's going to take individuals that long to
Mhm.
sort through. They're going to be
Right.
going back and forth with insurance companies if they have it. They're going to be stressed out because they've got to try to find some place to live. Either
Right.
purchase a new dwelling and then purchase all the things to go inside of that. So there's a lot of stress and trauma that
Right.
these families are going to be enduring from
Well,
this.
they're enduring them now because they don't know how to process, you know, and they don't know how to process because number one, they're in shock, you know.
Oh,
So how do
absolutely.
you so how do you process when you're in shock? Okay. And number two is once it may take a month, everybody's different. It may take 2 months, it may take 3 months for them to just accept the fact that their life has changed or that their
Hmm.
life is not what it used to be, and all the issues and all the hardships they were living when things weren't upset and uplifted. Now you've got that issue, in addition to not having a home, in addition to all of the things had that you saved up in your home is no longer. All of these things has is causing post traumatic stress and
Absolutely.
social stress. You have to add in social because the people that they used to know are no longer there. It's so
Hmm.
much. And, even though I promote health and wellness and we talk about eating healthy, you know, some people can't even buy healthy because their whole life has been pulled out from underneath them that they can't
Hmm.
even think to eat healthy. And then we
Mm-mm.
have these programs. These programs don't feed healthy. So, how are people supposed to heal? And everybody is not strong. Everybody can't do what some people can do. Everybody can't pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Everybody can't just deal with their own issues. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, we've got to come together, and that's why it's important to help one another. Little becomes much, but when you see something and you see somebody struggling, you know how we used to do. We may not have a lot, but we give what we have.
I'm not from here. And people ask me, I was asked that today, Deborah, why do you do this? I said, because that's what I was shown to do. Don't kick people when they're already down. And then when they're calling you and asking you for help, let me tell you something. The agency that gave the food, I had no relationship with until that woman called me. I knew about the agency, but I had not reached out to them. She called our county and they said, I guess she asked who was giving food and clothing, who could I call? And they gave her our name. Sometimes you have to be put in position to be blessed, but you have to let a
Huh.
lay a
Mhm.
foundation. You
That's
have
right.
to establish yourself. You have to get
Hmm.
in the trenches and do some work. Two
And
days later, I was getting food that I didn't even ask for. But the thing
amen.
is, the Lord knew that He could trust us. He knew we
Hmm.
would get that food out. That food arrived to me that morning, and that afternoon, I was in both of those counties delivering food. Now, all I
That's
have is a Jeep Cherokee. We loaded it up. We went to
mhm,
one city and dropped off. We came back, loaded it up again, and went to the next place in the same day. See, people want to find people that are credible. I wasn't
uh-huh.
worried about nothing else. I said, we
Hmm.
got it this morning. These people here have gone without stuff and struggled long enough. We're getting this food out into that community that day. And that's what we did.
See, that's a blessing. But then again, Deb, like I said, what's for you is for you. You know, people will try to discourage, they will try to destroy, but at the end of the day, what do we all say? Everybody that trusts and believe there's one God. He sees all. And like you said, your heart is pure. You want to help the community. You set an example. People see you. They act like they don't see you, but trust and believe they see you.
Oh yeah.
And because of your faithfulness, that's why they started donating. And you're not even from there. You haven't even been there 5 years. But the people that
Mm-mm.
have been there 5 years, what they doing? How they doing? And what
Mm-hmm.
did they do? They called you because they saw your work.
That's
So
right.
that's a blessing. So
It
listen,
it
be
is.
proud. Yes.
It it's a blessing, but I'm going to tell you, Jewel, I'm nothing special. I do what I do by the grace and mercy of God every day, and I'm not ashamed to say it. There are days when I
Right.
don't want feel like getting up, going to work, and showing up. And this week, it wasn't a struggle, but I'm like, Lord, give me strength to accept other people's trauma, stories, shed tears, pray with them, encourage them. Just let me do whatever I need to do. But I'm telling you, Jewel, it's been stressful. I I I can't tell you how stressful it was. I mean, to just you never knew what you were going to hear. You never knew what you were going to see going down the road, and I'm just like, there's just not enough people showing enough love, and I'm just hoping that a catastrophe like that does not have to hit people for them to move.
Well, Deb, all I can say is, you know, I completely understand where you're coming from because you do from the heart. And that's what this is all about. When you do from the heart, God will give you what you need to keep going. And yes, it's stressful, but see, for yourself, don't forget to take care of yourself. And then that's
Oh,
another thing. You mentioned,
mhm,
you were able to release some stress by,
mhm,
crying. We're only human. When you
mhm,
have a pure heart, you do cry with your clients. There's
mhm,
been many a days, even in the nursing industry, you do cry with your clients. You do feel, they say, empathetic, you know,
mhm,
but I feel their pain. So
mhm,
when I say that, I feel like we are atypical of the people that are still here in the world, and people need our compassion. People need our realness. They need whatever that nurturing that we have, that we still have, that we're not tired of, that we
mhm,
feel like that's what the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's what we say. But how many of us really have that compassion for people and feel their pain and yet be able to go on with life? Like they say, we have to leave our issues outside the door because we feel compelled to help people. And then when you get home, you're able to fall apart or cry because
mhm,
we have to be the strong ones. But I'm here for you, girl. I commend you and support all that you do, because I even said to myself, I was like, "Oh, you better than me," because some of that stuff I don't know if I can endure anymore. But then again, I find myself doing other things that most people have given up on, or even medical professionals, medical personnel, they're like, oh, you'll burn out. You can't save the world. Well, guess what? I haven't burned out yet. So
That's
maybe
right.
this is what we're supposed to do. But
I'm gonna, and not to cut you off, but I agree, Jewel. I truly believe that when calamity comes and warfare comes, an obstacle comes, the
mm-hmm,
Lord turns up the notch and gives us strength to go through that test.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
especially those that truly are doing it with pure motives and that are truly sincere about what they are doing. Um, I I believe it. I feel like I'm a living testimony of it after this week. And what I want to do, and we can talk about it more, is maybe we need to have a private group somehow and maybe train and mentor leaders. This started for us with the warming station in December, and now
yeah,
we're to tornadoes in
uh-huh,
April, March and April. Um,
mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I've been asking the Lord, I said, am I to write a book? Am I to write a manual about how to start a a a service group within organizations so people understand um, what what they are to do in
Well,
during natural
yeah,
time.
you know what?
Maybe I don't know how to get the information out. We're on here and people go back to replay, but maybe we need to Jewel work together and collaborate and make a manual, some type
Well,
of ebook
I
or
do have
something.
the
I don't know.
information. I do have the information to do so. I was just waiting for the latter part of the year. But I will say this too, there's people out here that are watching, listening. They've written many books. Maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
something they can help with. But then again, like you say, nobody, people are afraid, and I'm going to put it out here. People are afraid to share because they so worried that you're going to surpass them that they don't want to share. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a
Mm-hmm.
well, listen, tell the truth and shame the devil. But I
Mm-hmm.
know that to be certain. But I do have resources, uh, and maybe that is a way to go because people do need to understand how to survive, how to move forward, how to support one another when they're down. Like you say, you don't kick people when they're down. You
Mm-hmm.
try to support them. And here's the other thing, don't support people according to your standards. Support people
Mm-hmm.
according to what they need.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's what
Mm-hmm.
society needs to understand. Excuse
That that's
me.
that's true because with that comes a lot of stigmas. We create barriers. You know, I met a lot of people this week that don't go to anybody's church. And a couple of the people told me stuff
Uh-huh.
like this is why they don't go to church. Because,
Exactly.
and I hate to say it, but that's what was said.
Well,
We don't go
church
to
hurt.
church because when you go to church, the people from the church don't help you. It's
Hmm.
strangers. And I just
Yeah,
looked at him. I said, I understand how you feel. I said, but I believe I represent the church.
I agree.
The church is a
Well,
building.
yeah,
I'm a servant.
that's the difference. When you're a servant, you kind of navigate through this thing a little different. When
Hmm.
you but here you are thousands of miles away from me, and that's what was said to me one day.
Hmm.
They don't know because it's not just church hurt. It's the people in the church that are so judgmental, and
Hmm.
and they form an opinion, and that's not what's supposed to be. So the
Mm-mm.
people that want to go to church or want to congregate, they see how people are being treated, and they don't want to go.
Right.
It's sad.
Right.
So, like you say, for me, I remember a couple years back, maybe 8, 10 years ago, if you're in the church and you're serving, at what point do you get out in the community and help those that need help? Because we do need people to pray. We do need people to do all the different ministries in the church, but we also need the people that have the tenacity, the also whatever God put in them to get with people in the community and help them to heal as well.
I mean, these Jewel, trauma is real. My heart goes out to the adults, but I think about the children that were in these homes, and how is that going to affect them? You know, after something like this, there's a lot of long-term damage, um, emotionally, that people don't think about. You know, Red
Right.
Cross will be here a week, maybe 2 weeks, but the aftermath, what tools, what things are put here to help these people for the next 30 days, 60
Mhm.
days, 90 days, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months,
Mhm.
because it's going to take a while for insurance claims to be paid, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Yeah, that's the problem too. Because you now have another layer of
Mhm.
trauma. You see, so there's so many layers of trauma, and then we don't have the manpower. You
Mm-mm.
see, so it's so much, and we can't even figure out how to prioritize because it's one thing right after another. And
Mhm.
then the sad part is that the people of the world today, I'm trying to understand, do they not know? Are they traumatized? Do they really want to help and don't know how to help? Do they really know who they want to support or not support? But here we are on every Saturday, and we have resources. We get people that come to us and ask questions and need resources, and yet we're inviting those who can help delegate, and they're nowhere to be found. Is it that they don't come on these platforms? Is it that they only figure out with the people they connect to? But at what point do we all come together? At what point does it make sense to say, you know what, so and so is on Saturday night and they have this program, and which, let's pop in on them, let's support them, or let us know what platforms they are on so we can get on and we can support them. But I guarantee you we'll probably take over the show, and they're not going to like that. I'm just saying.
I I don't know what the solution is, and I keep hoping, um, that one will come, because high winds, tornadoes could strike anybody, could strike any state at any time. And whatever I can do after all I have learned in these past 7 days, hands on, I'm willing to share that information to help places have a plan of action in place to develop some resource strategies, like if something happens, how can I get food? How can we get water? Um, your grocery stores only, carry so much water. And if your large part of your community is wiped out, then that means that wipes out the water source for your
Hmm.
community. But how do we get access to these water trucks, to these water companies that will bring in tractor trailer of water for your community? We've got to stop thinking just about our neighborhood and start looking at a wider scale of resources,
Yeah. Now,
because our neighborhood resources are limited.
right. Now, I did see where our state were packing up a truck and they were going across country to deliver some goods. But
Mhm,
again, can you imagine the amount of stuff we could do if everybody got the memo and there was,
mhm,
and everybody could go and donate a case of water or whatever they
mhm,
have, but we don't even know where the trucks are leaving from. I mean, we need a
mhm,
community like that. We need to be able to everybody go dump. We're going to take a truck to Tennessee, and this is where you can donate
mhm.
your things. It's on the news, but what if people don't listen to the news? What if people don't, sound the alarm? Somebody needs to sound the alarm so people can participate.
And I agree, because I'm going to tell you, I probably have watched the news one day
Hmm.
this entire week. All of my news came from other people that was keeping me updated about the weather or what I would catch on a Facebook post, because we were supposed to get another storm this week, and they were thinking that it was going to be worse than the one that had you know happened the end of March. And I am
Hmm.
like, I didn't even want to hear that the whole piece that it was supposed to be worse. I'm thinking, can it get worse? What is it going to do? Take out everything? But it broke up. It did not happen. I was thankful for that. But we've got to start planning ahead,
Hmm.
Jewel, in these communities. And people being jealous or afraid of what someone else can or can't do, or they may go ahead. I am a firm believer, what God has for me, it is for me. And it's
Yeah,
got my name on it. And can anybody have it? If God gives it to you, then He's not an Indian giver.
exactly. And the sad part too, Deb, is that, I think people cringe when you say stuff that may be true. Like I've said a couple of things tonight. You call it what it is. But isn't it amazing how when you say things and people cringe, it's not because we don't care, it's because nobody's calling it what it is. We have been in this world long enough to know that people do niceties. And how do we get people to come together unless we say what it is, what it really is? And the stuff I've said tonight, nobody can come on here and tell me that is not how it is, because the results would be different if that wasn't how it really was or is. You know what I mean?
Yes, I understand. Our community makeup would be different. We have
Right.
we have got to start being involved in our local government, I feel, to make some impact and some changes. We need to show up at those city council meetings. We need to understand the language in those council meetings. We need to understand those issues. We don't need to just go when we have a complaint. We need to pop in those things as regular as we can. The
Yeah,
same way for our local issues with our school board and school systems. We don't need to be a visitor there. Just because
right,
we aren't in school or may not have children in school or grandchildren doesn't mean that our voice is obsolete, because this is how I feel, Jewel. We have
well,
wisdom in certain
right,
areas.
right.
Now, they
No,
may
we
not
have
want to
wisdom.
entertain it, but we have wisdom.
Right. And we have wisdom in our communities because people that look like us, there's unspoken languages that we speak, but other people on the outside looking in, they don't get that. So
No.
that's why we need to get involved. But I will say this, well, I can only speak for myself. I have been supportive and gone to these meetings, even when we tried to get people to participate, it was on only a handful of people. So my question to the people is, what are you afraid of? Is it? It doesn't cost you a dime,
No.
excuse me, to participate. So, yeah, we got to change our mindset. We have to change our way of thinking. I always say to people, look around. Can't you see things are changing? Can't you see we can't just go like we used to go? Can't you see that, you know, things that we have to be use our critical thinking, common sense. Now we got to
Mhm.
get back. Common sense isn't common anymore, but
Mm-mm.
we do have some people where we can come together and do some things collectively. Ironically, you and I are in a different state. Can you imagine the things we can accomplish if you and I work closely together, for our state? But then you
Mhm.
try to get other people to get involved and they want to know, well, who do they think they are? We are citizens that care. We keep trying to find ways to get people to collaborate, to come on. But once again, another Saturday, you have people that do niceties, but they don't want to get involved. So, with that being said, um, we just have to keep going, Deb. And then you and I, as we talk after the fact, and after we end our broadcast, all we can do is just keep going because we already know, you know, what we can do. We already know that we're an asset to no matter what we do. So just keep going, stay positive.
Absolutely. It's sharing information. And some people may have experienced the scenario that you shared, that people don't want to share information. We can never improve legislation in our country, in our communities, if we're not trying to work together to bring about change. This week on the news, the state of Tennessee, um, I guess, evicted a couple of legislators over gun reform rule, and they silenced them. And two of them are, African American men that spoke against something, and it actually involved three. And the one woman, they didn't bring any sanctions about her, and as a result, the vice president was in Nashville, and a lot of stuff is going on. People, we've got to speak up. We have to put people in office that have some backbone and that are willing to stand up for people's rights. Tennessee, was it last week or week before? We had a person enter a school and take like 9 lives. We can't keep accepting this behavior from people.
I totally agree. And that's the thing. Why is it that people keep allowing this to happen? Why is it that people just keep watching and not get involved? It's just craziness.
It,
But
you're in Colorado. It's that could be in your state.
it
It just
was in
happens
our
to be.
state. Yeah, we had one a couple of weeks ago. A matter of fact, several different situations. Did you hear about the guy who was stealing? I read this on these things that I get all the time. I believe it was called the news breaks. I get these all the time on my phone now. I don't know how I'm getting them, but two guys were still in these catalytic converters, and they found one of the guys dead. They had buried him with cement under apartment building. You
Oh
see,
my
there's
goodness.
dumb stuff happening. So yeah, we people are going to have to speak up. And then this has been since last summer. Here it is, almost a year later. They've smelled a funny smell, but nobody, I guess nobody knew that's what dead bodies smell like. And
Wow.
so it took 6 to 9 months. The family was looking for the other loved one. Yeah, this is why I say we've got to come together. We've got to figure out what to do, how to get people to start making healthier choices, how to get people to decompress, how to get people back into a healthy mindset, because there's too much going on and we're mass destructing. I mean, this is not good. People are going to have to say enough is enough.
If they don't let their voice be heard, this will continue to happen. I will say that. I don't believe people are going to have to hold people accountable.
Uh-huh. Well, I've definitely said that. I've said that. You got to hold people accountable. They don't like because you say something. You can't wait for it to come from a superior, so to speak, to let them say, I mean, we all have gifts. We all see different. We all have talents. Maybe it's the ones that don't get to speak up. Maybe it's time for those people that don't speak up to start speaking up. There's a lot that can be said with that because people have been saying things for a long time, and it's certain people that keep you from saying what should be said. And I don't know what it is. It's a trust factor or something, but we've got to start trusting people that have the experience, that have put their time in, that have, like I say, community hours, that know what the community's doing. Those are the people you should be listening to at this point. So it's a lot that can be said. But Deb, our time is up, ma'am. We've been on for an hour and 25 minutes. We've given people a chance to come on and speak. We've done a lot, and yet we're still here. Thanks to those who have come on to at least acknowledge us and make a comment or two. Is there anything you want to say in closing? Uh oh. Did I lose you? Well, everybody, looks like we lost Deb. Um, so I'm going to say goodnight to you all. Um, until next rewrap. This is Saturday. Thank you for coming on. We This is Saturday Night Talk. Thank you for uh, those that will be listening. Um, you can plus follow us on Simply Jewel TV. You can also uh, put something in the comment box. Thursday Night Lives is our health and wellness, just so that you know. Not sure if we're going to do that every Thursday, because why? Because this is Martin's season. So I just want to say to you guys, thanks for tuning in. Please comment, replay if you're listening to this. It's a quite lengthy, but we just wanted to come on and let you know how we were feeling. So thanks again for listening. Um, I am going to go out with a little bit of music so that you guys can decompress a little bit. Peace and blessings to you, and have a good night. Thank you. Bye bye.